Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. As we all know, next year being 2026, at the midpoint of the year, Warner Bros. Discovery will be splitting into two distinctively separate companies, one of which is going to be encompassing all of Warner Bros. Studios and streaming, essentially Cartoon Network Studios, Warner Bros. Animation, DC Studios, all of the studios and HBO Max that Warner Bros. Discovery owns will form one company, and then the other company will be Warner Bros. Discovery's linear cable networks, which is essentially all of the cable networks they own, whether it be Cartoon Network, Boomerang, TNT, TBS, CNN, they will all be under a separate entity. We discussed this at length in another video card above to that video, but new details have emerged as to the naming with these two companies. One of the things I was very critical on when this split first happened, besides the fact that they're splitting in and of itself, which is an absolute mess, one of the things I was pretty critical on is they said names to be announced at a later date for these two separate companies, and I couldn't understand how you're planning this split. This is something that's obviously massive for the industry. This is something that was supposedly not supposed to happen because David Zaslav was on the record multiple times saying we're not building this to sell it, we're building this to be a sustainable company. Well, apparently not, because now they're splitting. The two names for these companies are Warner Brothers for the studios and streaming, and then Discovery for all of the linear cable networks. It's going to be called Discovery Global. So in essence, what is happening here is these two companies are splitting as if this merger never happened. Except it did. It did happen, and it was pretty bad at that. So basically what they're doing here, and I've said this in other videos, is essentially they're trying to take all the studios and the streaming service, the game studios are included in that, Warner Brothers Interactive. They're taking that and making it one company, and they're calling it Warner Brothers. The other company, the linear cable networks, is going to be called Discovery Global. In essence, in name, it's like these two mergers never happened, but essentially what they are doing here is they're taking the more popular name, the more brand-worthy name, Warner Brothers, putting all of the good stuff that people actually want in that company in an effort to later sell it to the highest bidder. I made a video a little while back saying how Sony is apparently eyeing a potential purchase of Warner Brothers. I'll leave a card above to that video as well. And of course, there were those rumors years ago saying that Comcast was interested in buying Warner Brothers. So essentially, they're taking their lucrative business, these studios and streaming services, putting it in the more recognizable brand Warner Brothers, taking all of the cable networks and putting it in the less recognizable brand Discovery. I feel like Discovery is really getting shafted off to the side, and they're really being left to just die out essentially, because how is this company supposed to succeed when number one, all it encompasses is your linear cable networks, which as it is already aren't doing as well as they used to be because everything's moving to streaming nowadays, and on top of which, as we've reported on in other videos, the majority of their debt is being put into the Discovery company. So how is this company supposed to stay afloat? It really seems like what's happening here is you're using this as a scapegoat to say, hey, all the stuff that people don't want to buy, these cable networks, no one's putting money into cable anymore. They want to build these streaming services. We're going to put that all into Discovery because that's the less recognizable brand. We'll let it sink or swim. Maybe they'll go defunct in 10 years time. Who cares? We just want to, sell the streaming, sell the studios we own to the highest bidder and Warner Brothers because that's the recognizable brand. It's just an absolute mess of a situation. And what I really don't understand here is the naming for these companies is so simplistic, right? It's Warner Brothers and Discovery Global. You're telling me when you announced this split, however many months ago it was, let's say 2 months, I don't think it was more than that. You could have just say it was going to be called Warner Brothers and Discovery Global. Like, this isn't exactly this groundbreaking name you came up with. It's Discovery and it's Warner Brothers again. It's as if this split never happened. I just feel like this whole situation is just indicative of where this company is as a whole. It really shows that there is a lack of direction internally, and they really don't have a plan for this company. From the get-go, when this merger first happened, I really did not understand why Discovery was buying Warner Brothers or Warner Media at the time, right? I didn't understand how Discovery could have enough money to have this merger happen, right? Discovery's obviously a recognizable brand globally, but it's not Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is the bigger company of the two. So how is it feasible that Discovery is going to take on Warner Brothers? How are they going to buy this brand? How are they going to merge with this company and be sustainable? Well, obviously they weren't. They had $54 billion worth of debt that they got down now to, I believe, around $37 billion worth of debt. They're not exactly doing all that well right now, and they're splitting because of that to then sell the company again. It's amazing to me. If you would have told me in the early 2010s before I started this channel, if you would have told me that Warner Brothers, one of the biggest brands in the media landscape, is going to see a sale where they're purchased by AT&T and been rebranded to Warner Media. They're going to see a merger happen with Discovery where they become Warner Brothers Discovery. Then they're going to see the company split a few years after that and become Warner Brothers again and Discovery Global. And then on top of which, if we're looking into the future a little bit, we're probably going to see another sale of Warner Brothers yet again. If you would have told me this in 2010, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. This is one of the biggest brands in the media landscape. This would be as if Disney decided to sell themselves to Apple. Then Apple's like, oh, we don't want to deal with Disney anymore. Let's have them merge with Paramount. Oh, Paramount's like, oh, we're not financially feasible with Paramount Global Disney. We have to split now to Paramount and Disney. That just sounds ludicrous, right? Because that's what this is. I know Paramount is having their own merger with Skydance. That's a whole nother thing. We talked about that a while back, but it's just amazing to see the lack of direction within this company. But not only that, it's amazing to see just the industry as a whole and how just topsy-turvy it is right now. Warner Brothers is looking for someone to bail them out of all this debt. They're looking to just shaft it off to Discovery. And yes, Discovery Global is going to own 20% of Warner Brothers, so they'll get some money whenever this sale inevitably happens of Warner Brothers. If you look at that, coupled with the fact that Paramount's now having this merger with Skydance, that's two of the big three in my mind, the big three being Warner Brothers, Disney, and Paramount, are really just in a state of flux and are really just not doing well financially. They're both in debt. I believe Paramount was in $13 billion of debt as of a year or so ago. Disney obviously is not doing the best it's ever done, but they're staying afloat at least right now. There were rumors a while back that they were looking to sell off some of their brands, like they were looking to sell off ABC and ESPN. Nothing's really come from either of those reports, but nevertheless, this industry as a whole is just in such a state of flux and is really struggling. And it's amazing to me to be seeing this because the whole reason why this is all happening is because these companies were like, oh, streaming is going to be the next big thing. It's the best thing that's been invented since sliced bread. You know, we're just going to charge our consumers astronomical prices and no one's going to blink an eye because they want to see our brands. Well, that backfired completely. And while streaming has changed the way that we consume media, 10 years ago, I was watching shows on Cartoon Network, whereas now I just finished watching right before recording this video, episode 10 of season 2 of Total Drama Island's revival on HBO Max. We now consume our media on streaming at any time of the day whenever we want, whereas before we were tied down to a specific time whenever that network was airing the show. That's the one positive that's come from this. But the problem being, all of these companies dove headfirst into streaming, thought it was going to be bigger than it is, and basically because of that, they're all in such great debt, and they're all trying to figure out a way to get out of this debt. And as we could see with Warner Brothers, Warner Media, as it was prior to this, they've really been fumbling and struggling with this. At first, they thought, okay, we're going to sell off AT&T's, like, we can't afford to, deal with all this. We have to sell some cell phones. We're going to sell this company, or have it merged rather, with Discovery, forming this new entity, Warner Brothers Discovery. They're like, we'll figure this all out. We'll figure out a way to get our $54 billion of debt back. And obviously, it's been an absolute dumpster fire ever since this merger first happened. Now they're like, oh, we can't really find a way out of this. We're going to split. We're going to give all the debt to Discovery. We're going to have Warner Brothers be our lucrative business with all of our studios and our streaming and our game studios. And we're hoping someone's going to buy us because we really don't know how to navigate the situation. That is what is happening here in a nutshell. And it's just absolutely amazing to me and absurd to be seeing the direction that this industry as a whole has taken, but in this video specifically, Warner Brothers Discovery. Because again, Warner Brothers is one of the biggest media franchises in the world. It's just amazing to be seeing that over the past decade, how much flux this company has been in. And it's no wonder why they can't get their feet on the ground, so to speak, because it's like, how are you supposed to be a sustainable business and how are you supposed to, actually fix things when you keep changing leadership? Just look at Cartoon Network for a quick second. What has happened with them over the past 5 to 8 years? They've had 3 different presidents of the channel. They had initially Christina Miller. She gets fired. They bring Tom Asching in. Tom Asching has this grand vision where they're going to rival Disney. He gets fired because of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. Michael Olin comes in. Nothing's really happened since then because, quite frankly, they don't have the money to make series and make new shows. They don't want to take the risk on a new series because they're risk averse because they don't want to get further into their debt pile than they already are. So essentially, in essence, what's happened is Cartoon Network's just kind of been in a state of limbo. They haven't been really greenlighting shows. The ones they have been greenlighting are just revivals of former series because they know that's going to make them money. It's just unbelievable to me to be seeing the state of this industry and the state of this company as a whole. And we'll see what happens next year when the split happens in mid-2026. We'll see if things get better from here. I hope they do because it's really a shame to be seeing what has happened to Warner Brothers over the past decade. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. What do you guys think about the fact that Warner Brothers Studio and Streaming is going to just be called Warner Brothers and then the linear cable networks are just going to be called Discovery Global? Are you you amazed that it took them 2 months to announce this after they initially announced this split? It's like, how complicated are these names that you couldn't just announce them then? And what do you think about the state of this industry as a whole and the state of this company? Do you see things getting better for Warner Brothers, or do you think things are going to get progressively worse for the company? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.